Good evening and welcome to the March 26th all virtual Transportation Commission meeting. It is March 26, 2025, and it's an all virtual meeting. We are here to discuss two information items, but before we get into those items, I would like to know if there is anyone here present who would like to talk about items that are not on the agenda. Okay. Hearing none, I will turn the meeting over to Chairman Maradovich for the first agenda item, which is the FY 2026 Transportation Capital Fund proposed budget. Mr. Chair?
Yeah, thank you very much. This item's pretty important for you all to provide your feedback on because I will be in front of the county board tomorrow to give some comments on this. So I was supposed to present last week, but we moved it to tomorrow, which would coincide with the staff presentation and also allow the whole commission to comment. So I wouldn't be going up there before you all had an opportunity to say something. So that being said, let's begin with this presentation, please. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, we don't have anyone from staff to present on the transportation. Is that what you were expecting?
Oh, that's what I was expecting.
Oh, we don't have anyone from staff.
Okay.
This was for you all
All
to
right.
discuss the item.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to begin discussions. Got quite a bit to say on this, but I'll allow other members who have read the little staff report to give their thoughts first. Okay, June has her hand up. So
yes.
June, please go ahead.
I don't know why my camera is
Commissioner Walker.
I'm sorry, I don't know why my camera is all of a sudden not working. I was trying to open up a couple different screens. I was just wondering, for clarification, are there a few capital projects that are not included? So for example, the west entrance for Ballston, or is that a different CIP pot of money? I'm just trying to understand. So we have spent money on other capital projects and just trying to understand this report and where, if some of the projects have dropped since the last time we were.
Let me see how that's going to be funded.
And then also,
I think the west entrance might be kicked down a fiscal year. Not sure, but let me check. Because I mean, the west entrance, as you saw, wasn't mentioned in that report, so I don't know if it's if it was supposed to be included or if it's in another fiscal year. Because I think like one thing that we're seeing here is that they're like very behind on a lot of projects. So for example, we have the Columbia Pike bus stations. They were, according to, they were initially supposed to be built in 2021. Now we're talking fiscal year 2027. So I think it seems that the big issue is the capital investment plan is not being adhered to by the county board. So they're a little bit behind on schedule.
Yes. So I too thought maybe staff was going to be here to kind of walk us through what was different from last time we spoke. And I if I recall correctly, we just got brief on, I mean, and this is just an example, like the west entrance. I thought just a few months ago we were briefed on it. So I was wondering if this had anything to do with federal funding or anything like that as well. So But that was one question of just getting an understanding. The same with, I was trying to, when we spoke the last time with staff, I believe last year, we talked about kind of Columbia Pike and the investments there, and wanted to track the status of that and kind of the what they've completed and what is yet to come. So
yeah, I'm looking at the Boston West Entrance website, and the latest update it says is that it's at 35% design. I don't know. I don't know what how they plan on funding it. A big part of that is federal funding, and as far as I know, no federal funding has been terminated right right off the bat. But I think they are kind of expecting some of these grants being recalled in the future. Anyone else have comments?
Yeah, one item which I think is a really important item on the complete streets is the
Yes.
South Carolyn Springs Road project.
Yes.
That's a really big deal. South Carolyn Spring Road is probably the worst street for pedestrians in the county. There's a lot of schools, and child facilities along there, which makes it all the more important that this one go forward. And it's in here, and construction is supposed to be starting like really soon. But just I want to support that, very, very much, and call that one out as I think that's a really big deal.
All right. I'll mention that tomorrow. One thing that I'm concerned about is we have fewer funds. The CIP is, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Commissioner Ludlow. Please go ahead.
Okay, I'm happy to go after you if you'd like. But
no,
okay.
you can go ahead.
All right. Yeah, no, I think there are a number of very worthy projects in here that we've heard about in the past, that we've been briefed upon, and it's good to see many of them going forward, including Carlin Springs and South George Mason, Military Road, roundabout, lots of different things, safety improvements. So it seems like a good package of improvements. There's some good geographic distribution across the county, and a lot of it's focused on safety. I did want to mention just add my support to the to the language. It's kind of deep in the document here about using a data-driven approach to looking at what we need to do and how that can support the master transportation plan update and other things we do. It's under strategic network analysis and planning. I've spoken a number of times about the need to invest in the right data sources. I think that's really important. There's a lot of data available now. Location-based services data on where people move, enabling county planners to use anonymized data to really look at trip patterns in a more cohesive way. Being able to look at what's happened in our county and our region since some of the dramatic shifts of COVID and work from home, and then kind of the pendulum swinging back a bit more towards a large percentage of people going RTO, return to office. So we've had these dramatic shifts in behavior, and I hope that this data allows us to better understand the current patterns of transportation and behavior of not only the people who live in Arlington, but the people who work in Arlington and the people who hopefully visit Arlington, the tourists, business people, commercial enterprises, and really being able to nail that down. I, in my profession, use a lot of these data sources in different settings, including difficult settings where we have to kind of patch things together. But there's a lot of robust data sources, and I applaud the county's efforts and staff's efforts to obtain additional sources and to make our work data driven.
Great, thank you. I concur. Alex, please go ahead.
Yeah, not too much to add. Like definitely agree that we're definitely running behind on projects, and it's very important to really get done as much as we can, as quickly as we can, assuming we do it right. In addition to the Carlin Springs project, definitely want to support the George Mason Drive multimodal and the Wilson Boulevard complete street, or the Wilson Boulevard segment in Virginia Square too, because those are both parts of those are very sketchy for pedestrians, cyclists, anyone outside of a car. I'm excited to see the East Falls Church bus bay expansion for transit kick off construction. I think that's definitely important for long-term planning. And I also noticed that electric buses were mentioned too, with 8 of these supposedly coming online in FY26, and I'm really hoping that from an ROI investment for transit, that we hopefully stop any upcoming electric bus purchases in addition to this, so we can spend money on more regular CNG buses to get more people and run off their cars and run more service. But that's it.
Great. Yeah, thank you. All right. Looks like a lot of hands going up now. Vice Chair Furman, please.
Yeah, I'll echo what Commissioner Mendelson was saying about the purchase of the electric buses. I think, if there's federal funds available and they're specific to that purpose, I am in support of using those existing funds. But if we're seeing clawbacks on any of these things, or Arlington potentially being left with holding the bill for them, I think this is a secondary goal behind just providing more reliable, dependable, frequent service that enables people to make the choice to use something other than a personal vehicle. Because if we're putting it as the choice between, a CNG bus and an electric bus, in that vacuum, yeah, and we'd want to do an electric bus, all things being equal, but they're not equal. The cost isn't equal. The capability of the buses isn't equal. And if we spend as much money as projected on those buses, we may harm our ability to create dependable and reliable service that would be a real alternative to the real thing that we're asking people to switch from, which is utilizing personal vehicles for trips that could otherwise be done using transit. But right now, half hour, 60-minute headways, these are things that nobody who owns a car is going to opt to take that option if presented with that choice. And so maintaining the existing art service is an insufficient use of our funds. So we need to be looking at prioritizing those funds to create a service that is a game changer for allowing people to make the modal switch. And I hope that they'll look at, the funds being used in that way, rather than the theory of, well, we're going to decarbonize our bus fleet. Again, a laudable goal, but I think in terms of what we're trying to use our dollars to most expeditiously go after, it's a misguided direction to move in.
Yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Hussain.
Yeah, Commissioner Furman and Mendelson basically said everything that I was thinking of. So, but I just wanted to, I guess I'll just associate myself with both of those comments. I think just an emphasis on frequency would be ideal, I think. Granted, this is, I like the idea of moving towards more innovative, more clean, fuel sources. That's great. Electrification is fantastic. I have nothing against it. It's just, if we had to choose, I think I'd rather prioritize frequency if possible. But yeah, so that's all I have to say. And then just aside from that, most of the pedestrian oriented projects on this list I think are very good, and especially in the Roslyn to Ballston corridor. I live in that area, and especially around like Fort Myer, Wilson Boulevard. It'll be nice to see some improved pedestrian infrastructure. It just makes it more people centric, which is nice. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was going to talk about BEVs. Commissioner Mendelson, if we can come back to you, just wrap up the bus conversation. If there's a clawback, then that's going to be a significant cost to the county. And in terms of innovation, in terms of sustainability, we already have something that's very innovative and very sustainable, and that's the renewable natural gas, which we get from the waste management facility. So from an environmental perspective, we're already innovating and doing something that's sustainable. Furthermore, we're talking about, with the current fleet, emissions that account for fewer than 1% of the county's overall emissions. So if we're going to look at where we can, the county's going to have to be judicious in terms of what it spends its money on. And this doesn't seem like it. Furthermore, what's going to be our second agenda item for tonight, the thing that most people are in agreement on, of all the people that they've spoken to, all the public engagement that they've received over the last several months, is that, and I'm quoting, making transit more frequent and reliable. And this is potentially at odds with that. So given that we're already behind schedule on the capital improvement plan, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the county to be ponying up more cash, potentially, if there are clawbacks, to pursue this. It's going to be, we have the negative experience of across the river with the circulator, where they went electric. Frequency was reduced, reliability was reduced. Now that the circulator no longer exists. Furthermore, we already have a system that is not very reliable. We're like below 75%, 74 point something, I believe. So adding this could potentially complicate things. I see very few benefits to this other than some PR benefit of us. Ultimately, it seems like a performative transportation policy. Given that these buses aren't running on coal, they're running on renewable natural gas that we're recycling from the waste management facility. So, I think that's all I have to say on that. I'm going to go back to the commissioners. Commissioner Mendelson, please, and then tell me after him.
Yeah, I really want to echo everything you just said. That was great and definitely sums up the needs of Arlingtonians in transit. One thing I really want to emphasize is the reliability issue and the on-time performance. We cannot, I don't even think we should put our funds towards increasing frequency until we deal with the reliability problem, because we have so many buses that are just overscheduled and not able to consistently make the trips they are scheduled to make within a day. And we need to put our funds towards getting more buses on the roads so that we can meet today's schedule before we make the future schedule of more frequent service. I think that really is the biggest obstacle we're facing right now for transit. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Lynn, tell me, please.
Yeah, your basic speech on the bus is something you really need to repeat when you meet at the county board. Mm-hmm. I seem to remember when we went through this, when Art was presenting to us, the Transportation Commission was, I'm pretty sure, unanimous in saying electric buses are really a bad idea. And it wasn't just, gee, we should do something better. It was like, these are really not ready for prime time. They're going to cost more money and be less reliable. They're bad in cold weather. They're bad in very hot weather. And they're all conditions we have to deal with here in Arlington. And that's when you want the buses to be most reliable, and that's when they're going to be least reliable. So, and it's performative is exactly the right word. It's a waste of money, and it means deteriorated service. So, I'm very much opposed to those, and I think the way you put it, please do that. I absolutely agree with everything else everyone said. And you can, I think, pretty much say that the Transportation Commission was unanimous in this view.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Lantelmi. Commissioner Ludlow.
Commissioner Flores was ahead
I'm
of
sorry.
me.
I'm sorry, I didn't see. Where is Commissioner Flores? I'm not even seeing you're on the second page. There you are. I'm sorry. I don't have everyone on the screen. Please, Commissioner Flores.
Somebody stole my charger, and so I'm operating off a low power charger with low battery. So I'm on off video if I'm not speaking. I just want to echo basically everything my fellow commissioners have said, and what you said as well. We were unanimous in our feedback to Art, and so frankly, I'm kind of shocked that this is still in there. We are not at a place to move to electric given the incapability in cold weather. This year, we saw an extreme chill, and I can only imagine if we had an all-electric fleet, what that would do to service. And if we want to increase ridership, this is not the way to go. And I think what you said about it being a PR push kind of hits the nail on the head. It really does look like it is just a good faith effort. And I think it's a waste of money. And I was unclear if the funding was through one of the previous administration's grants. I think I never got a full yes 100% either way answer. If there's even a cent that is from the IIJA or IRA acts, we shouldn't be putting this forward at all. We very, very strongly against this.
Right. Well, yeah, when we're talking about a lot of the performance issues, and when Art was given the presentation, they're like, well, we need to get this bus in to see how it performs. But you don't need to do that for a regular bus. You already know it performs. So let the other jurisdictions be the guinea pigs, pony up their own cash, and then we can come in when the product is, as Commissioner Lantelmi said, ready for prime time. I mean, it's basically the Apple business model, not really leading on anything, but just getting good components when they're ready for prime time. So, Commissioner Ludlow, please.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just echo what you've said. Commissioner Flores pointed out the potential grant uncertainty. Yeah. I think we need to make that clear. Not only the grant uncertainty, but I completely agree and associate with the other comments about just needing to get more buses, getting the system more reliable, first of all, as Commissioner Mendelson mentioned, and then more buses. And then later, maybe, if Alexandria has shown us proof of concept, that we can consider moving in this direction. But the timing's not right. There's other things to fix, and the federal funding could be uncertain. We're seeing, I'm just witnessing a vast rescoping of federal priority right now, and it's running down through contracts and other things, and I don't think it's made it to all the grants yet. But the lexicon is different, and the priorities are different, and so just to punctuate, we would want to look at that too, but only after we consider the other things. So your message is spot on. The other thing is I was concerned just looking at this, and I know we're all concerned about budget, but my understanding is that even with the revenue sources that we have available each year for this fund, that we're kind of looking at a stagnant to slightly declining situation. I mean, exclusive of federal. I don't feel like I understand that really well, but when I look at the line graphs, the intuitive feel for that is, well, we've got more FTEs that's great if we're accomplishing things. We have less overall, there's a lower overall dollar amount, and unless this is somehow controlled or for inflated dollars or something. So I don't understand. I would like to know more about the direction we think we're heading with this pot of money, because it doesn't feel like it's going in the right direction. It could be a reflection of the partly cloudy forecast for Arlington, period, given the headwinds that the county is facing in many different directions. So just something to consider.
Thank you. I think the big reason for the decline, and I think it was about a 3% decline from fiscal year 25 to 26, is the drop in the commercial real estate tax, which I got
that's
it right
right
here. Yeah, almost 1.4 million, which is a pretty substantial chunk. In terms of the FTEs, towards the end of the report, they had kind of what was happening, a summary of the previous years, and the county was really ramping up the FTEs prior to the pandemic, and then it completely plateaued. I don't believe they hired anyone in 2022, 23. They're finally back to hiring some people, and that will be a savings over a consultant.
That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a good thing, and it's for the capital bike share, which is every month looking more and more robust of a program. So that seems money well spent. But I think overall it is a negative trajectory.
Yeah, I mean, I think
financially.
I think even just the, and I think we'll be probably talking about this a little bit more when we shift to our next discussion, but the commercial real estate continues to be a big concern. And so, that underpins and will continue to kind of weigh on available resources in the future, it seems. Yeah.
Yes. And then there's, of course, the inflation.
Absolutely.
And then I don't understand what I don't have as clear of an understanding of what the impacts on these projects are. For example, when you have the Columbia Pike bus stations that were initially supposed to be completed in 2021, from I wish staff was here to provide some information on that, because from all the reading I found, it was supposed to be completed in 2021. Now it's 2027. When you allocate money for that and you're 6 years behind schedule, like, that is a much more expensive project now than it would have been before. So these delays are incurring costs as well, and make me even more against the battery electric buses. Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that. When I talk to Arlingtonians, and I'm sure almost every commissioner can echo what I'm about to say, but the Columbia Pike project is starting to look more like a disaster the longer and longer and longer it's taking to complete anything. I was driving down Columbia Pike the other day, and it is so dangerous for pedestrians, so dangerous for bicyclists, so difficult to navigate around buses that are trying to do their best and get up and down without blowing a tire. It's really putting the county's transportation efforts in a bad light, and I'm getting increasingly frustrated with what seems like yet another push to a project that will never finish. And just to echo what you were saying earlier, Chair, like, I wish staff was on here. I don't know how many answers you're going to get tomorrow when you talk to the board.
I'm not getting any answers. I'm just going
to. May I interject?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So typically, and this was my understanding, I invite staff to come every other year to talk about the CIP, and then the operating budget, which is this year, is every year. It's the ongoing budget. But I hear you loud and clear that you would like staff to at least try to chime in on some of what you're talking about. So to the extent that I can, if we can formulate some questions tonight for me to send over and try to get a response before you present to the board, I will do my best to do that. I in hearing you, it was my understanding that this would just be a discussion among you all about how the budget is operating for the upcoming year. But it sounds like it's more than that, and I can try my best to do that. I cannot make any guarantees because it's such, a late hour, but I will do my best.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms.
Yeah.
Obakoya.
And just to clarify, I think I'm not alone in saying that our intentions was to discuss, but I think the report has left us with more questions than answers.
Okay.
So I think just a note for next year that we should have
Okay.
like more of a concrete, like with staff presentation, and we as a commission should put more effort into making sure that happens so that we are able to fully review the budget and do our due diligence in asking questions. So
Yeah, I've actually had this conversation with Chris in the past and my director, Mr. Emmanuel, and and the staff member, Sarah Crawford, who presents to you all. She said, I typically don't come to TC for operating, it's just CIP. So that was just the way I thought you all operated. And this is really, it sounds like there's more need for it to be an annual thing than biannual. So I'll make that an annual thing, and I'll send this to her. But in the interest of, I'm trying to track the notes here. Do you think it would be easier for me to try to summarize some of the questions you all have, or are you jotting them down, Chairman, so that I can try to send them over perhaps tonight or early morning?
Yeah, I'm jotting some questions down. I think if some of the questions that people have raised, for example, Commissioner Walker's question about the west entrance to Boston.
Okay.
But I think it might be best if you do have a question, throw it in the chat and we can compile from that as well.
Okay.
And then for all the previous ones, I will write you an email afterwards, Ms. Obakoya.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Meg, are you finished or do you have more to say?
Nope, I'm all good.
All right. Thank you. Vice Chair Furman, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit on the Columbia Pike situation. Being a resident along the Pike and being the president of one of the civic associations along the Pike, it, I think, is especially disappointing from my perspective with the delays that we've suffered for a program that is not delivering something that's transformative, right? If we think back to if this was the trolley or something like that, you could almost accept this amount of construction because you could say, well, it's going to transform what's being delivered here. But for the most part, what we're maintaining is, the same travel lanes as before, a few instances of some medians and planters that help to slow down certain things. The sidewalks are widened at some portions. But I really think we lacked imagination as a county when these plans were put in. For the amount of effort, time, money that has been spent on this, it really could have been something that was actually transformative. And I think instead what we got is this is a slightly improved streetscape. It is still not tremendously positive in terms of like a place that people will congregate towards. The neighborhood I live in is directly adjacent to Columbia Pike, and yet a still huge number of people who live in this neighborhood will bike or take their car to Shirlington, where there are way better restaurants and nicer walking environments to be around, because Columbia Pike is still essentially a thoroughfare that is trying to do too many things. It's trying to move large numbers of motor vehicles while also being a commercial thoroughfare and a destination for people to walk around. I think that the design that the county put forward was just not did not meet the call of what the area needed, and for the amount of hassle that we have endured to have this project to finally come to fruition, I'm just kind of saddened by the results being what they are. In most cases, it's nice, but it's not what it could have been or should have been for this amount of hassle.
Correct. And you know, you mentioned the trolley that was canceled 14 years ago, and the what do they call it? The performance bus network. I think that's the formal term that the county's using for it. It hasn't delivered 11 years later, and the criticism of the trolley was that that it would be too expensive, too complex. It would be over budget, it would be behind schedule, and yet here we are, as you said, for something that's not transformative. So I think, given all the promises that were made to people living on the Pike when the trolley project was canceled, I think the county really owes it to those residents to wrap this project up.
Yeah, and the 16A, C, E, M, all those bus lines, I mean, they are still to this day the most trafficked bus lines in Virginia, from my understanding. So the ridership is really high on these. I'm glad to see that we're creating more service opportunities with the better bus network, but yeah, it's not transformative. It's not what was promised initially. And yeah, again, the timeline has just been far, far too long. And I can't believe you just said it was 14 years ago that the trolley was canceled.
No,
but
no, it was in 2014, so 11 years
Okay,
ago.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, still 11 years is long enough, but yeah, that's so it's been a long time.
Yeah. I think I spoke to staff a little bit about the bus, because this keeps popping up, the on-time performance for the buses. And there are multiple issues for that. One of them is getting the proper data software. There have been some issues with that, but another issue relevant to the Pike is all the construction. Makes it very difficult for a big bus to move around and to be on time. And so, I mean, that's a recurring problem that seen in the county with the Pike, but also with the transit way, the on 12th Street that's supposed to be going up in Crystal City, Pentagon City. A year for not tunneling it just like, it's kind of hard to maintain bus schedules when you have a road ripped up for a year. So I don't know how to get around that really, but that's pushing schedules back, inflating costs, and making buses late. Commissioner Flores.
Sorry, I did not mean to keep my hand raised.
Okay. I saw some, thank you. I saw some other hands going up earlier and then coming down. Commissioner Theo and Commissioner Locker. I don't know if you still want to jump in. Please go ahead.
No, my question was addressed earlier, so I'm good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let me take a glance through my notes. See if anything else pops up. I think that's it, unless anyone else has something to add. Commissioner Flores.
Yes. So I think my last commentary on the budget is really the two things that we keep talking about, and they tie to everything else. The frustration that the county, that Art is choosing what seems like electric buses over on-time performance, and the impression that the county is just moving on from Columbia Pike, and it'll get finished when it gets finished. And we're going to start all these new projects, and we still haven't finished the current one. I know that's not how it looks, but I do have a lot of fear that the residents that live around Columbia Pike and in those regions, that's how they feel. And it definitely looks that way. So those are like my two key takeaways. And I know we've honed on them, but in my eyes, they relate to every other project in here because there's this almost negative prioritization of resources and funds.
Yeah, thank you. I'll definitely be hitting on that tomorrow. Commissioner Theo, please.
Yes, and in that, just reiterating Commissioner Flores's concerns with the Columbia Pike and with the battery electric bus, but I'd just like to add on the third item that Commissioner Lantomi had brought up previously of making sure that we focus on South Carlin Springs Road as well. That's all.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you. Unless there are any further comments on this item, we can move on to the second agenda item, the Arlington's transit future. All right, let's move on.
All right. So I think everybody has hopefully seen the request of what was asked question-wise in terms of just taking a look at these high-level goals. If you haven't had a chance to, I also do recommend looking at that feedback form and filling that out so you can get feedback directly to the working group as well. But my goal tonight is to collect any high-level thoughts that folks have on those proposed goals and make sure that I'm delivering them to the next Arlington Transportation's Future meeting. And so with that, I can either, well, yeah, why don't I just share these on my screen so that you all can at least see what we've got here, if it'll let me. Might not. Okay, here we go. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. So these are the proposed high-level draft goals. And I'll pull up my questions again so that I've got the right prompts in mind here, and then be happy to take thoughts from everyone on this. So high-level questions here. Do these draft statements reflect your understanding of the shared priorities and values of Arlington? So let's just start there with that question.
Commissioner Walker.
So I reading them, one of the things that is accountable also referring to being reliable. I'm just that statement is where I'm just wondering where that falls into, or if that's kind of will be embedded in all of them. I don't yet.
Not as much, if I'm being honest. So I've got a lot of my own thoughts on some of these goals. The connected one is the one that's intended to really be that reliability piece. Connected was something that I personally pushed to make dependable. Now, some internal workshopping, they don't like dependable because some folks had negative connotations around that word. But the idea was that what we're talking about with connected should mean, and you can see it says intuitive, dependable inside there, but I think it really needs to be kind of the top line of that's what they mean by connected. The transparent and accountable piece is supposed to be around the idea that, you know, they'll look at data, identify what's working, what's not, make decisions based off of a data-driven process, that they'll be transparent about how and why they're maintaining parts of the network, how they're addressing community priorities, building public trust. That's what's really meant with the transparent and accountable piece.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, I think, as you mentioned, I think reliable and frequent and is a community priority. Or so I'm not sure if we can hammer that home in all of the goals somehow.
Yep.
Thank you. Commissioner Hussain.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think these goals are, I mean, they do a decent job of kind of encapsulating everything. I think what stands out to me is both these and the vision should really be, they should emphasize a people-centric view of transportation here in Arlington County, like ensuring that we're, the idea of, creating a transportation network for everybody, and making sure that, that I think it's there, I think, but I'm sure that there are ways to make it even more pronounced. Yeah, and I just think that I agree with Commissioner Locker. I think that if there's a way to emphasize more things like, to specifically mention things like frequency and reliability, I think that would be good for us. I think I was struggling a little bit today with, trying to figure out what's the fine line between like being kind of vague and broad, because these are like overarching goals and visions, but then also like being very explicit about certain things like safety and pedestrians and like reliability and frequency. Those things are really important and clearly something that all of us here are very interested in. Um, so yeah, I think overall they do a good job, but maybe there could be some amount of refinement. But that being said, like I just, as super high level comment, like ensuring that this is all geared towards like the person and not the car, I think for me is like the ultimate for what we should be doing in Arlington County.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. Makes a lot of sense. Does anyone else have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah.
First, oh yeah,
Commissioner Theo has his hand up.
Yeah, just on that point, my only real concern with the goals is that I would love to see it more explicit that we would, as a county, with this master transportation plan that will be governing us for the next 15 to 20 years, if not more, that we are trying to move towards a more transit-focused, car-free, carbon-free transportation network with all that entails. I understand that these are high-level goals at this point, and from these goals, the rest of the transportation plan will be fleshed out, hopefully with those priorities in mind. But I would love to find some way to have that a little bit more explicit in here. My only real comment is actually with the vision, the draft vision. So I don't know if you were able to cover that as well in this, but with the draft vision, I would love to incorporate into it a focus on the environmentalism and carbon reduction aspects of transportation, of transit specifically. It covers the safety and the connectivity to nature, friends, family, and jobs. But in the vision, the draft vision, I don't see that explicit call for the environmental aspect of transportation.
yeah, absolutely. And the next question is about vision. So if anybody has opened that already, go for it. You can include it in your comments. So thank you, Commissioner Theo.
Great. Commissioner Forrest.
I have a question instead of, I mean, my comments echo pretty much everyone else's, but as you guys were drafting these, what was the conversation around, was there one around including specific types of transportation instead of just saying transportation? Like, for example, what Commissioner Theo is saying with, pushing away from vehicular transit and towards pedestrians, towards bicycling and the like.
Those are the biggest parts of what was discussed over sustainable and connected. And I think some of the biggest reactions I heard from the working group when these were revealed were around that exact subject. So I expect that those are going to have some movement. So I would say what I've heard from you all so far aligns pretty closely with what the bulk of the working group has had some concerns over, is that just not explicitly hitting some of these points about deliberate modal shift, right? Or, when we say sustainable, saying exactly how we're getting to sustainability. So, no, it does align with what some of the concerns have been, and I'm expecting there will be some changes when these are revised.
Okay, my last comment is that, especially given that feedback, it is hard for me to provide succinct comments about this because they are so high level. They're at a place of take it or leave it, and it says a lot without saying much at all still.
As our former chair Slat, who is commission or the working group lead for this effort, has said a few times, is that he believes that the policy, the nitty gritty that will kind of deliver on these visions will hopefully provide that. With these are meant to be more at that high level and aspirational toward the future, but I think it's important for us to tell staff where we think we want it to be more explicit, because there are potentially areas where I think there's a desire to do that.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Commissioner Lantelmi, I'm sorry I skipped you. Didn't see that you had your hand up first, so please go ahead.
Sure. There's one thing that really seems to be missing from all of this. The transportation of goods. We've had an explosion of delivery over the past few years, not just UPS and FedEx and the Postal Service, but Uber Eats and Amazon and DoorDash. And it's a real issue for site plans. Where are they going to be dropping stuff off? Where is it going to go? And it's not people that's being moved around, it's stuff. And it's a real issue now, and it's growing. And it's an increasing percentage of our transportation network is being devoted to that. And I don't think it's being addressed anywhere. And it's something that we need to have addressed.
You can see it's at least mentioned under connected, but I would concur that there's probably a greater importance that should be emphasized on this. Is there anything you would recommend that they do to call that out in a more concrete way, to sell the importance of that?
Sustainable could also have moves more people and goods without more traffic. Add goods in where in that one also. I'm wondering whether it could also, I guess, safety's okay. Livable. Yeah, with the transparent accountable, I guess it's community priorities, but of course priorities includes goods, or should. It doesn't, we're not getting into the details on it, but it is something that belongs, you're right, it isn't connected, but I think it belongs to sustainable also.
Awesome, thank you.
I was thinking initially that it could fall under livable, under the economic vitality, but I do agree it's good to explicitly mention goods as well. So we're not having these kind of ad hoc solutions for how we're doing drop-offs of Amazon packages and food delivery stuff. So
yeah, it's curb management, which is a real big issue, and it's never really seems to fall under anything.
Yeah. All right. Commissioner Theo.
Yeah, 2 points. The first one kind of inadvertently related to what Commissioner Lantelmi just brought up. I was running through my head at where does innovation or flexibility fit into these goals? Of course, it's a double-edged sword, because with innovation, you're thinking about, a few years ago, it was the scooters, and coming up in the next few years, it's automated AI-driven vehicles, which Google Waymo is now apparently seeking to pilot in DC. And of course, if you explicitly mention innovation and flexibility in these goals, then you can open up the door to seeming to embrace those technologies, which is not something we necessarily want to do. But I am trying to figure out, I'm struggling with and kind of failing at this moment to figure out how innovation and flexibility for the future for unseen technologies fits into this. Second point.
That might be an additional, yeah, that might be an additional goal.
Yeah,
Flexibility.
I was kind of worried of that because this is already 6 points, and I'm always loath to go up. But I do like the number 7. It's one of my favorite numbers. So if we were to go to 7 bullets, then I wouldn't be too sad. I had a second point. It will come to me in just a few seconds. So I will go off camera while I'm thinking of that.
Yeah. If I could provide a comment before moving on to the other commissioners about innovation, I think so many of our solutions have been in existence for 100 years already. And if you take a look at what Paris is doing and what Barcelona, Copenhagen, these cities that are Vienna, cities that are the gold standard really for how to move people, goods in a financially responsible way, in an efficient way, and in a healthy way. It's very few new technologies. And I think like if we do put something about innovation, I'd like to prioritize existing best practices because so much there every couple of years there's some new technology that's supposed to solve our traffic, solve this and that, and none of it has worked, and it's all been gimmicks for the most part. And I agree with your concerns, Commissioner Theo, that like we would inadvertently open up the door for more Waymos in Arlington potentially, which is something that is at odds with a people-centric system, especially in Arlington County, where we're so small, not even 30 square miles. We really have a wonderful opportunity to create to actually deliver on these goals. So
yeah, I'll just chime in and say, yeah, that was my concern with bringing up innovation is opening the Pandora's box to chase the shiniest, newest thing. And I did remember what my second point is, but I'll go ahead and get in line behind others for that point.
Well, you're already talking, so go ahead.
Others for jumping back in, but yes, parking. Where do we see parking fitting into these goals? Because I would love to see the master transportation plan revised and updated and improved, taking a very bold stance on parking minimums, expanding and protecting the parking performance parking program and other parking related issues that the county is suffering from. And I'm not really seeing any reference to parking in any of these goals. It would seem to me it should be a explicit priority.
Yep. Thank you for that suggestion as well.
Commissioner Hussein.
Yeah, I think I was looking at the livable goal and I didn't realize that it has the word affordability in there. I didn't see it before, but I would think that maybe the word affordability should also appear somewhere in the equitable and inclusive goal. I mean, it could just be a redundancy at that point, but I think emphasizing like affordable transportation, not just affordability in general, but like being able to afford taking transit and not just bus transit. I think this also includes rail transit as well, so metro and VRE. I think the emphasis on affordability is another one of those maybe more specific ideas, but also pretty important that I think it should be included. I don't think we should assume that like everyone can afford public transit. And to that degree, I mean, this isn't really in the purview, but like even like toll roads, I'm just thinking out loud, but like I think the idea of affordability maybe should come up in the equitable goal as well, if possible. I feel like it could be a good place for it to go. Yeah.
No, that's a really good idea. Something else I just wanted to include for everyone's knowledge is that one of the main findings from the survey was the most trips that are done right now in the county are done by walking. And one of the most desired things in the future from people taking the survey was that they want to do more walking. And so I think that also fits into, you know, equitability, livability, right? Like if it's affordable and you can live in a place where you can walk to a lot of your amenities, you're cutting on transportation costs pretty dramatically. And so I think that's a really good call out of let's put affordable into that piece as well. So thanks for that suggestion.
Yeah. Commissioner Hussein, do you want to continue? Since I saw you raised your hand again.
Sorry, I really quick, the point about like walking more, maybe the term, like the idea of having like improved physical infrastructure might be worth including somewhere here. Just as a, you know, we have obviously the transportation network has to be better, but like the actual transportation infrastructure that's geared towards pedestrians, I feel like maybe that's another place. I feel like I'm just adding more things for you guys to do, so I'm gonna stop there.
All the ideas are welcome. Thank you.
Commissioner Mendelson.
All right. I'm not gonna lie, I have a lot to say. Yesterday, I spent an hour and a half at a listening session with Arlington Transportation Future staff, composed of entirely of high schoolers, discussing the draft goals and the vision statement and how that reflects to the specific transportation needs of high schoolers as well. And through that, I got to learn a lot of exactly what staff's specific goal for this phase of engagement is, which is basically higher level wordplay. In terms of like these statements are pretty broad, and next phase 3 is where they expect to see like they expect to have more of the trade-offs conversation, and that's when people will probably start getting more angry with the plan. But I think the goal of this phase is to generally build support for the project. I know that they did spend a lot of time discussing, like specifically mentioning mode shift and getting around without a car and including that in the vision statement and the goals. But they did decide to remove them from this draft that they put out because of that like higher level wordplay reason almost. Um, and in the draft vision statement, they specifically mention variety of transportation options. After our discussion yesterday, one change that we thought about making to that is not just a variety of transportation options, a variety of good, high quality transportation options. Like we might have a bus, but it might run every 30 minutes, and that's not a good option when you're competing with a motor vehicle that can leave at any time. So that was a big takeaway from yesterday. We also spent some time on the innovation conversation that Chair Muratovich was discussing earlier, and thinking of innovation not just as like, let's try this big new fancy technology thing, but instead of innovation as really making change for the purpose of improving things. We don't need to use big fancy technology as what you're saying, like what we already have in our toolbox and what we've had in our toolbox for a long time is probably going to solve most of our problems. So innovation just is making change for the better, not any particular technological aspect as often is associated with the connotation of the word. What else? We thought about the vision statement as well, in replacing the word jobs with opportunity to kind of expand the focus away from just commute trips in terms of like education, recreation, really anything that you can use to get to get benefit and be productive. So we like that change as well. Adding the word ages to the first sentence, so it's people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities, not just backgrounds and abilities. Um, that was our main that basically sums up all of our conversation on the vision statement. As for
Commissioner Mendelson, could you just repeat what was the ages piece for? Where was that on that?
So in the first sentence of the vision statement, it says Arlington's transportation network enables people of all backgrounds and abilities to move safely, comfortably, and seamlessly. It's just adding the word ages to that to consider that, there are students and people have different needs. So it's just kind of broadening that out a little bit. Not too big of a change. I really think the most significant takeaway from yesterday was the good transportation options and the opportunities instead of jobs. As for the draft goals, there was a conversation about not just being safe, but also feeling safe. And that kind of ties in with both the goal of safety and the goal of like livability that mentions like high quality of life. Because people won't take transit if they think it's sketchy in any way, and that's more than just like crime. It's like lighting and vehicle upkeep. Um, so we definitely spent some time talking about that. Um, for the connected goal, we discussed like a variety of destinations as well as kind of we mentioned in the business statement, like opportunity is like you can get to any type of place. And that I think is about it. Sorry if that was a lot, but I did spend an hour and a half yesterday discussing this, so it's very fresh on my head.
Thank you so much. Great notes on that.
Thank you. Commissioner Theo.
Yes. What Commissioner Mendelson was just talking about had something else occur to me. With the draft vision, in addition to changing jobs to opportunities, which I like, what are thoughts of, I know this is adding more stuff into this, is the problem of a committee built vision statement here, but of also adding in amenities to that, or public amenities. I'm thinking of my own situation where I live relatively close to the Lubber Run Community Center, but it is far easier for me to get down to Arlington Mill on Columbia Pike than it is for me to get over to Lubber Run using transit, even though it's less than half the distance for me. So I don't know if we wanted to consider suggesting adding in amenities to that already pretty long list.
Thank you for that suggestion.
I'd like to potentially add a draft goal, and I think one that would encompass a lot of things. And as corny as it sounds, that goal would be freedom, and the freedom to move throughout the county without having to rely on one mode of transportation, so having other quality of options, in turn giving you financial freedom in that you don't have to own an expensive vehicle that you have to insure, that you have to register every year, pay taxes on all of this. I think like the Capital Bike Share, the electric bikes, is such a game changer that I'm zipping around like with 90-cent rides, getting there quicker than I could even on my motorcycle. And to build out a network that supports that, as in protected bike lanes that people will feel safe on, biking people of all ages, all abilities. I think like at the heart of all of this is the freedom to move around the county without incurring a huge financial cost, and not to have to be tied to one mode of transportation. And I think that's like a really aspirational goal that would allow us in the future as a commission to advocate for a lot of projects, because implicit in that freedom is multimodality, because you can't be free if you're just tied to one thing. So I don't know. The comment section is open until tomorrow, from what I understand. So we're like throwing out a lot of stuff here. So I hope everyone will also submit it in writing.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
get this stuff. But
Yeah, a lot of these are really great ideas. I highly recommend everybody make sure you do fill out the feedback form. I will be rolling this all up, and it's going to be delivered by the 31st. So if you miss the window, please don't miss it. But if you do, send me a message. I can include it in the information that we're going to send over to the working group. That'll be part of the larger discussion. But it just helps to have it in the survey results. Kind of makes it official.
I mean, if we really think about it, tomorrow is kind of an important day for our commission because we have the deadline for public comment on this, and then also the presentation to the county board, which is, yes, we write draft letters every after every meeting on action items, but it's different when you show up in a televised recorded session in front of the county board to talk about these big strategic priorities. So I think I would encourage everyone to make an effort to submit their comments because this is how we set ourselves up for the future. It'll make our job easier in the future. Yeah, Commissioner Theo, do you still have your hand up, or?
I do, yes. On your point, Chair Maranovich, about freedom, may I suggest we, instead of adding another bullet point, which to my count would get us up to, I think, at 9 at this point with all the stuff we're adding, perhaps consider making it explicit and adding it to the livable bullet, which I think is already very similarly aligned. Livable already mentions affordability, although it could make that a bit more explicit and highlight that a bit more. And livability, I think, from what you were talking about of your goal for freedom, would be very much aligned with the livability aspect. So perhaps suggest renaming it to be one of the something and something. So livable and flexible, or livable and free, or something along those lines, and then making your points a bit more explicit, since there already seems to be quite a lot of overlap with the livable bullet.
Yeah, agree. We need to submit this stuff in, and then I guess it's going to be up to the consultants to rearrange the words where they fit in.
That is the truth. Is no idea is a bad idea. They're going to decide what they want to include with this thing ultimately. So you can always throw it out there. I agree with both of you that I think like these are laudable things to include, and you can always propose it as a separate thing. Can propose it as part of livable. They're going to make the choice as to how many they want it to be based on a lot of factors.
Yeah, but thank you for your comments, Commissioner Theo. Commissioner Mendelson, you're next.
Yeah, following up on what you and Commissioner Theo said, I do really like emphasizing freedom, although I think I personally prefer the word choice, or like choices, as just due to the connotation aspect of it. But like choice in terms of like you can make the choice to travel without having burden, like financial burden. You can choose between a variety of transportation options, and you can make last minute choices about your trip that don't require advanced planning. Like that flexibility aspect, I think is really important. Like when you're going somewhere, you don't need to map out your entire trip if you're not using a car. You can last minute make a change and it's easy. But I generally do think we should shy away from adding more bullet points and try our best to fit in our feedback into the existing 6 goals. So yeah, definitely supports the livable and the connected goals with that freedom and those freedom and choice aspects that we're talking about. But overall, pretty solid.
Thank you. Commissioner Ludlow.
Yeah, so just the way that Commissioner Furman framed this, he had 4 questions for us to contemplate tonight, and I feel like we're running through all of them at once. I know you may bring us back to some discipline here, because I think we're jumping.
Well,
So
yeah,
the first,
I think we've probably hit on 3 of the 4 already.
four,
There's one
okay.
that I still need to bring up, but yes.
Okay. So yeah, so I'll kind of address a few of these at once then. My my impressions of this were that it's a very laudable set of goals and vision, that it's very human centric, which is fine. It's about people. I do really appreciate Commissioner Lantilmi's point about goods and weaving that in. I think by even getting that in a couple of places, it allows the policies and tactics that will follow these goals to get into more specificity. And that's what really what we're doing here is setting up a high level framework. And we want to make sure that we leave in enough for the policies to drill down into more detail. The policies always have to align back up to or have a tie back up to the goals. It's hierarchical. So if you think about it this way, we don't need the kitchen sink in here. We just need it to be reasonably encompassing of the things that we want to talk about. So when I look at this, though, the thing that really struck me was that it's a lot about moving people, but typically in a lot of transportation plans, you'll see something that really pins the transportation system back to economic development, economic competitiveness, business formation, enterprise, innovation. I do like the idea of innovation. But given that Arlington is facing an existential crisis related to its economy, um, the variable and unknowns around the federal workforce and the need to retool and rethink a diverse economy in Arlington, it strikes me that we don't really have much in there except on connected, where we talk about a network that's well maintained and allows people to move around, and I guess also on livable, improving economic vitality. I was glad to see that in there, but to me, I feel like some of these could possibly be condensed, and that one is a standout. And it has to do with Arlington's place in the regional fabric. How does Arlington interconnect with other job centers and with um, workforce housing, all of the things that stew in the ecosystem of the region. This one is it feels a little insular. It feels like Arlington's a beautiful, livable island. But how does it connect to the rest of the region? How does it connect to DCA? We're looking at massive new infrastructure investments with Long Bridge that connects into DC, with the airport bridge system, essentially, that will interconnect National Landing to DCA. There's these kind of like generational changes that are really about weaving Arlington more cohesively into the fabric of the region, and thereby maybe unlocking a lot of the economic potential that's latent and that we need. So again, this feels good. There's a lot of amazing, and I don't disagree with any of it, human factors focused language, but I think we're missing some of the story around the way that Arlington functions within the National Capital Region, its position as a gateway community, and as a neighbor and as an interwoven element in Northern Virginia and Washington, D.C. And I don't really have a strong suggestion here, except that something about, whether it's a goal or just including the language that would elevate commercial, business, enterprise, innovation, accessibility. It's all about workforce accessibility, unlocking relationships, allowing commercial enterprise to thrive through that interpersonal movement of people. It's the same kind of latent power that's really locked up and under leveraged for the Northeast corridor in the United States, for example. Like if we, just to give an example, if we had a true high-speed rail system, you would unlock massive economic potential through that mobility, or as our chair says, that freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, Commissioner Ludlow. I think that's a good suggestion of trying to find ways that we might be able to emphasize more of those points. If not in its own standalone goal, at least maybe kind of hitting it in more of the points and how it connects more widely.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for those very thoughtful comments. I think, of course, how the county connects to the broader region is not solely up to the county, but you know, there has been a trend within the past couple years of greater regional cooperation, and so that's going to be, you know, we're talking about the marks and VRE potentially through running and all of this. So there's a definitely a somewhat of political will, you know, whether the economic capital is there to back it up, but you know, there's an interest in that, and so maybe how this plan relates to that broader regional will would be a good point to include. Commissioner Hussein.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that was really well said, Commissioner Ludlow. I think the focus on regional connectivity, I think, is really, really key. And I think it would be nice to see that a little bit more here. Yeah, spot on.
All right. The last question that we really have not hit on, because it wasn't one that was kind of emphasized with the other ones, was just a question around, is it clear how community feedback helped create the draft vision and goals? And this is something that if you've read through the feedback form or the summary feedback from the prior round, hopefully it gave a pretty clear picture of that. But I think the broader question for all of us, being as integrated with the community as we are these goals reflective of what we would expect to find here? Are we clear on how these goals kind of came about, or does any of it feel like it's out of the blue and it doesn't align with Arlington's values?
I mean, I'll jump in and say it. I think it's pretty well documented, the effort they went through both online and in person in various parts of the county to engage people. I think you know, anytime someone's unhappy with a plan, they say, oh, there wasn't enough community feedback. But usually what that means, my personal feedback wasn't you know, elevated above that of others. But here the numbers speak for themselves. I think anyone who's wanted to contribute to this has had ample opportunity to do so, and will still have more opportunity in the next 24 hours as they wrap up this phase of the process.
Thank you, Chair Maradovic. If there's no other comments on that, I've got a good, healthy list of notes here that I can go through, and I'll organize and again invite everyone to, I guess, through the end of this week. If you have any other follow-up ideas, feel free to send them over to me. I'll be compiling them all up and sending them out. And then, as always, I'm at the Arlington Transportation Futures meetings. Those are open to the public, so if any of you are curious, you're always welcome to attend those. But otherwise, I'll keep reporting out on opportunities to engage and also anything that working group is looking for from this commission. Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for being the liaison with that, both you and Commissioner Shannon, who unfortunately wasn't able to attend tonight due to another obligation. But I think that unless someone has anything else to add, I think that concludes our agenda items for tonight.
And Mr. Chair, shall I expect to receive some questions from you tonight or early morning to send on? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
I'll send you something later tonight, but don't stay up too late. I got to run some errands after this, so it'll be arriving a little later.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. You guys have a good evening. Thank you.
All right. Goodbye.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.